welcome to this week's episode of Lagnia-POD. Rob Gilbert, your host this week. Everybody sound off who's here at the rectangular round table.
This is Ashley Trice.
Scott Johnson.
Frankie Petrie.
Tony Hicks.
All right. Well, we are fresh off of Mayor Sandy Stimson's final Downtown Mobile Alliance
The
breakfast.
Last supper, but
last
except for it
breakfast.
was breakfast.
Yes.
The last breakfast.
And there were no Judases present. It was interesting. He broke a little bit of news this morning. He had several things that he said that were kind of they were out there and hadn't heard before. So Brady, what were a couple of the things that right off the top of your head that we heard from this morning from the mayor?
Hold on. Don't do the fun one first. Do the necessary.
Don't do the
much
fun
needed.
one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I want to get some music going for that. Okay.
Okay. Got it.
You know when I like to play it in the back.
Yes, we've got to make sure everything is right.
Well, on a much more boring note,
Yeah.
but more important.
More important,
note,
but boring. Yes.
Uh,
more important.
the city is looking at creating an ordinance that would basically, I'm trying to find irritate property owners downtown that have these blighted properties.
Yeah.
Would put them all
I
on
think
a
making them
registry.
uncomfortable would be it. Yeah, they would be on a blighted building, building registry.
Yes,
They would have to register their beat up piece of junk buildings.
right. That they're
Yes.
just letting sit there and rot away.
But what's so good about this, I think, is that they would require them to put fire safety measures in there, like
Yes.
alarms and maybe sprinklers. I don't
Yes.
know, but that's going to require electricity, and some of those buildings down
And
there.
the hobos sleeping inside them would have to wear Kevlar.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
some of
and
those
just
buildings
believe
down
that's
there
part of it.
probably no one's going to touch to put electricity in it.
Asbestos.
You know, and so that could be very interesting.
Well, that's the
Yeah.
question. Like, how is the city going to enforce it? Number one, and number two, you have to make the fine more, I guess, in terms of cost, more significant than it would be to have your building wired, for all of this stuff. So I don't know how the city's going to go about that. And this is really kind of in the early stages, but it's one of those things that if you've been downtown, you know about. I mean, you see all these buildings that have just been left to rot, and the city's hands have pretty much been tied.
It is just patently unfair and unreasonable that people in downtown are allowed to just maintain is not the right word, to just own derelict buildings and leave them boarded up, partially boarded up, whatever, in any just horrible condition they want to, because they don't have to pay any real property taxes on it, and they just sit on them. Meanwhile, people are fixing up buildings around them, trying to run businesses. You're never going to get retail down here without getting that taken care of. I mean, you go to other towns where they have retail in their downtown areas and things like that. You do not see this. And people say, well, why can't we get this and why can't we get that? This is why.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's going to put in a nice department store or high-end jewelry store or any of those types of things across from a building that is boarded up. And
Yeah.
I mean, and there's some of the biggest names in town are offenders here. And, it's, even like I've said before, even the Senior Bowl owns a couple of buildings down there that are in terrible shape. And, these are entities that need to take care of this stuff. And at the very minimum, to me, we ought to have a facade rule that if the facade does not look
Right. It can't be a board. I don't care if you have
No
an
boards.
artist paint the boards. That
Nope.
still looks like
No.
a boarded up building.
No
It needs
boards.
to be windows.
no boards, no
Yeah.
broken windows.
Yes.
Can't do it. No.
100%.
It's got to look right. And, and I think that's what the mayor's talking about. It would be a bold move to do that. And, hopefully if once it's done at the downtown level that it spreads to the rest of the city and takes care of
it is a fire hazard. Especially the way, the downtown buildings are set up. One of
Yeah.
them catches on fire. It could catch the entire block on fire.
the guy next door, his building burns down. He could probably burn our building down too.
Yes. If it didn't burn it down, it would certainly damage it.
We've got buildings on both sides of us that are touching our building.
Well, the city has known that this is an issue, but what really kick-started this whole conversation was when the building right next to Hoffman's Furniture caught fire. And that really spearheaded this conversation of like, oh, well, wait a minute, these dilapidated accommodated properties are a big problem.
I think, I know, just to pat our own backs, I think us bringing attention to it has also helped bring it to the forefront too, because it's been something we've written about a lot, and we did a whole big story on it and named a lot of these buildings that are in bad shape. And I think it's important to keep the pressure on that and keep bringing it up, because it is something we need. And I know there's some opposition to that in the city government somewhere, but it's just not really reasonable. I mean, if people don't want to live next door to houses that are derelict and their yards are overgrown and all those things, it's just not really fair to have that occurring downtown. And it really, if you want to have downtown thrive, this has got to be taken care of.
I mean, you've got people on Knollwood Drive who are up in arms about a senior apartment complex being right next door to them, but you don't hear anybody complaining about the derelict properties downtown. Right. So it doesn't make any sense. Very rare.
So what the exciting part? Are you ready? You got your music queued up? Okay. All right, Brady, with that, you could also talk about what the exciting and fun part. Yes.
Yeah, and I later learned that.
Okay, now this is now the fade. The fade didn't work very well. Okay,
that is a top tier level of production.
That was really something.
There's supposed to be a board or something, but all we have is my phone.
Yeah, that was it.
Make it work.
We need a board to just fade her out, a fader on there. Yes.
But in case you didn't get that subtle hint
in the future, your fader just to walk away from the microphone. Yeah, that's how you fade it out. But go ahead.
I'm trying to add some sound effects.
That is true.
We need sound effects. All we've got, I think, is this. Don't we have the? Oh, we've got a couple. Yeah. All right. I got to stop this.
Nobody else can hear them.
I know you guys can hear it. All right, that was terrible. Anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, Jimmy Buffett, the exhibit is coming to the Maritime Museum, and that's been reported on. But what hasn't been reported on is, and apparently Mayor Stimson let it slip today, that the city is in talks to bring a Margaritaville rooftop bar to the Maritime Museum.
To the former Gulf Quest, for those of you who haven't switched over yet to the Maritime Museum. Yes.
Right.
And that's pretty fascinating.
It is.
I know there's a Margaritaville actually just opening up in Pensacola right now as well. They're doing a restaurant over there too.
And in Orange Beach. They're opening up a resort in Orange Beach.
In Orange Beach as well. Yes, you're right. That's what I'm thinking of. Orange Beach. That was it. Yes. Orange
same beach town.
Same difference, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, they're coming there. They're in Orange Beach. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump right over here. Maybe we'll get that going. It's interesting. Andy McDonald in this week's paper was writing about the other restaurant that is in there. That's in the Maritime Museum as well. So there's apparently already a nice place there.
The Fresh Fruit Cafe. I was with him. I thought it was a smoothie place.
I did too. Apparently it is not. Apparently they make all sorts of things that are not smoothies and
in fact, there's no fruit on them.
As we would say, regular food. They make sandwiches and all sorts of good stuff like that.
I can't wait to go check that.
It's one of our few waterside dining options around here. So let's give it a shot.
And I
could have margarita there.
You could. I have to say, this is nowhere near finished. This is just in the early stages.
This is just talk. Yeah.
Matter of fact, a city official told me that they weren't even expecting Mayor Stimson to say anything about it today.
Yes, I think he caught a few people off guard with that.
I think so too, and so now I believe they're scrambling.
The lame duck breakfast,
Yes.
Yeah. That's when
letting stuff slip.
Yeah, he was a little saucier this morning. He was like, I might step on a few toes here. But
nothing to lose at this point.
There was also some discussion about even the potential of knocking down the parking garage out there near the cruise terminal and rebuilding it to make it larger. That also was kind of a shocker. I think that sort of flew under the radar for a lot of people, but that was interesting news as well.
It is, and the concept of it sounds silly at first, just tear it down to build it right back up. But when you hear the explanation that Mayor Stimson gave, it makes sense. And basically, the city is looking at adding more cruise lines and more cruises to the port, but unfortunately, right there on the cruise terminal, there's not enough parking to accommodate a larger cruise line and more ships coming in and out. And so Mayor Stimson said, and obviously this would be a project for the next mayor, but basically said, hey, if we can tear this down, build it back up, add a level or two, maybe widen it a little bit, you could see more these cruise lines come in. And even floated the idea that some of the cruise lines may even help pay for a portion of it.
So take ownership of it in some capacity. Yeah. So we've got a new we are a destination for a new cruise ship as well that is coming. It's smaller. It's a smaller one with only a couple hundred people aboard, right? But it's kind of just going along the Gulf Coast and going to exotic locations like New Orleans, Mobile, and Pascagoula.
Right.
Ocean Springs.
Ocean Springs.
I don't know where they're getting into Ocean Springs or. I thought it said Pascagoula on the list. I'm pretty sure it did.
I have to go back and look. You may be right. Pascagoula,
I'm pretty
Pensacola.
sure.
On the map they had today, it said Ocean Springs,
Well,
which
I mean,
seems a little bit of a more charming town.
Hey, now,
than Pascagoula. No offense here. Motherland.
I didn't grow up in Pascagoula. I'm from Gaucher. So, the smell of Pascagoula is something that visitors ought to have an experience with.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
well, I mean, look.
The city of seven smells. Anyway,
I'm all for these cruise lines coming here.
Yeah. Hey.
But just looking at the price point, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the price point of this cruise.
I did not know.
Going from New Orleans to Pensacola and back, it's around $5,000 a person.
Wow. Okay.
So it is.
This is high-end stuff.
It is high-end stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have to really want.
What do I get for that?
You get a tour from New Orleans to Pensacola and back. That's pretty. You got a couple stops.
$5,000?
Yeah, a couple stops along the way.
The food is probably
that's a hard no.
It's got to be really good food and a lot of
It's
gambling.
a hard no on my end. I'm sorry.
I mean, each his own.
Yeah.
I'll get in the car.
Some people just have an extra 10 grand lying around that do stuff like that.
Oh, I forgot about those guys.
Some of those guys.
I don't know those people.
They're getting fewer and further between right now. But it's anyway. Yeah,
close.
That's there are a number of things going on. It was an interesting speech. It was good to hear him talk about a lot of those things. But a lot of those times when it's very rare you go to one of those things and there's actually news broken for the most part, stuff you hadn't really heard about. So,
and the other thing, and just quickly, another boring but important thing is redoing the code to make development easier. Did we say that already?
No, we did not.
I was like trying to cue up my Margaritaville.
No. Okay. Did you cue up any building music? Any Bob the Builder?
Bob the Builder music, yeah.
Yeah, so
another brick in the wall.
Hey, maybe there you go. There we go. Well, it was a good last hurrah for the mayor. I mean, he's still got several months of hurrahs left, but that was his last mayor's breakfast. So, which we always enjoy because there's some salmon there and it's delicious. Dale Leash, who used to work with us here, he took full advantage of that, and we like to make fun of that. He wasn't there this morning. He works for the mayor now.
He was. I don't think he was allowed to go.
No, he was at the dentist. He said. I texted him.
That's not what his boss told me.
I texted him a picture of the salmon and then told him I hope that they have some salmon flavored mouthwash there for him. That would be
probably forced him to go to the dentist to keep the salmon budget in check.
Maybe there was a lot left over though. That's all I'm saying. All right, we're gonna take a quick break after we've made fun of Dale eating too much salmon, and we'll be back with Tommy Hicks and talk a little sports.
Down in our Alabama town, Lagnia-POD is on the beat for just $6.50. It's all the news, keeping local folks in the loop. Lagnia-POD every single morning, catching up on stories while the coffee's pouring. The local truths on every page, news for the folks of every age.
It's just $6.50 a month for Mobile's daily news, Lagniappe Daily. Get signed up now at lagniappemobile.com and help keep Mobile funky.
Down in our Alabama town, Lagnia-POD is on the beat for just $6.50. It's all the news, keeping local folks in the loop. Oh, Lagnia-POD every single morning, catching up on stories while the coffee's pouring. The local truths on every page, news for the folks of every age.
And we are back. It's feeling drafty in here.
I feel
That
drafty.
was a terrible joke.
It'll be really drafty tomorrow.
It's getting draftier. It's the NFL draft this weekend. We got some local folks that are thinking about becoming professional football players this week.
We do. We have a couple of guys from here. Obviously, Rodney Leonard, quarterback at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Will be involved, I would assume, and also Shamar James, linebacker from Florida, who played at Faith Academy. He's likely to be. They're both projected to be late round picks,
Okay.
like 5th, 6th round, but they should both be selected tomorrow. Not tomorrow, obviously that's first round, but I mean this weekend they should be picked.
Riley Leonard's all the way in the 5th. I thought he'd be higher than that.
No, not really, because he doesn't really have a big arm like they look for. He's very accurate. He made his bread and butter on being able to run, but he doesn't really have the speed of some of the guys that are making a living
Not
doing
quite
that.
Lamar Jackson.
Not quite Lamar Jackson speed, but he's very, very smart. I mean, he knows what he's doing with the football. He's been in big situations, and that's going to help him. Somebody that he would fit like at a Patriots position, maybe. Kind of one of their kind of guy. Well, I'm sorry.
Might be a good career. Number 2. I mean, the greatest job in America, being the backup quarterback is the greatest job in America.
100% it is.
You know, there's that. I mean, I'm not saying he couldn't win a spot. I mean, certainly guys have been taken in those rounds and have done very well. A guy named Tom Brady, I think, did pretty well.
Yeah, I think he did okay. Heck, backup quarterback's pretty nice fallback.
That's not a bad job.
That's not a bad
again. Not a bad job.
South Alabama, I don't think you're going to see anybody from South get picked this year. I would guess Jamal Pritchett would be up there as a possibility. He was in the Senior Bowl. He really didn't kind of take advantage of that. I don't think he didn't stand out as well as some had hoped. He did now run a good 40 during pro day at South, and that caused some attention. But he's smallish too, and that's going to work against him because the D-backs are so much bigger at that level and more physical. The one guy I think has a chance of being drafted from South is DJ Thomas Jones, a tight end. He wasn't invited to the combine or to the Senior Bowl, but he did really well in pro day. He's getting a lot of attention there. He has really good size. You know, he started at Ole Miss, so he's played at that level as well. He's a good receiving tight end who can also block. So I think that could help him. He may have some chance there. I think Wacavius Thomas, the defensive lineman, will likely be an undrafted free agent.
I was going to ask if you think some of these guys
I think
more of a chance of being undrafted free agents.
I just don't think it would be in the draft itself. But I think all of these guys, including Jaden Voisin, the defensive back, I think they all have a really good chance of signing free agent contracts, like 5 minutes after the draft is over.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right.
So that's some things to look for there.
Well, that'll be cool. It'll be fun to watch and see if some of that comes to pass. And then, of course, we got spring sports going on. There's lots of going on. There's tennis is big this week.
Tennis is big this week. Everybody here is pulling for Anders.
Yes.
They had the first half of the state tennis tournament at the tennis center, Mobile Tennis Center, Monday and Tuesday, and then Thursday, Friday is going to be 7A, and the 4A, 5A competition will be this weekend there. So that'll be fun to watch. Baseball is in the second week, the first week for 7A because don't have as many teams, but the second round of play is this week. We've got 12 teams still in the postseason. Softball starts up. Some games start this weekend, but most of them will be like Monday, Tuesday for area tournaments. Soccer area, all of theirs coming up. Golf sectional will be next week.
The furious finish here, man. There's a lot of stuff, right?
A lot of stuff. A lot of stuff.
Haven't they discussed that there are too many spring sports and they need to move some of them to the fall?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, you have indoor track that's part of winter. So now outdoor track is going on now. Tennis is more a warm weather sport. Softball, baseball had to be. Soccer you could move. I think you could move that one to the fall where you're not as heavy. But everything else is pretty much golf.
Plus, you have to live under the shadow of football at that point, too,
Yeah, well.
And a lot of those guys that are playing football, it probably cuts down a lot.
Volleyball is a fall sport.
Yeah.
Volleyball, I'm trying to think, there's one other. Wrestling, I think, is a.
How about bowling? Was that that's not weather dependent? Yeah, that's not.
They pick sports that don't really, wouldn't necessarily be competitive against football. I guess, and they're indoor for the most part. So something to do.
All right. Well, we got a lot to look forward to this week, and seeing who makes it in the next round of baseball, especially, and tennis, and Anders Trice out there. All right. Well, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk a little bit more about what's going on this week. Just $6.50 a month for Mobile's daily news, Lagniappe Daily. Get signed up now at lagniappemobile.com and help keep Mobile funky. We are back. So, Scott, you've been covering some of this stuff this week. Obviously there's been a lot of shootings and a lot of crime, a crime wave, basically. Yes, I think that's a good way to put it. Some of the things that happened. Obviously, a young woman lost her life last week at Sage Park watching a basketball game, and then there were subsequent. There was somebody that was shot at Publix. There's been a couple of other incidents at parks, and it's just been kind of a real mess here in the last few weeks.
Yeah, and it's obviously the public aspect of them. They're happening in the park in the middle of the day. The Sage Park one happened at night, but it was a heavily attended basketball game.
There's like 100, 200 people standing out there, right?
Yeah, and these are places that we all go to. We all pass the basketball courts, weekly. And
the Sage Park is right there at the corner of Dolphin and Sage. It's just nuts. It's like
if your kid plays soccer or t-ball or something, you probably, and definitely soccer. I don't know if they still have the baseball.
If you're a dude, an older dude playing softball, you're out there all the time. It's like there's lots of
Same
going
with
on.
Langham Park. You're out there letting your kids feed the geese.
A lot of folks out there playing stuff. It's just kind of crazy to think that somebody. That's the issue to me. Is that it's really just amazing. Is people pulling up at some place where there are 100 or more or 200 people standing right there watching basketball and deciding to unload and fire.
Well, at Langham Park, thankfully no one was hurt there, but small children were running around everywhere, and that no one stopped to say, oh, maybe I shouldn't shoot this gun, this automatic or converted gun a million times and indiscriminately. It's just...
Yeah, Stimson revealed that they had a press conference Monday where they got everybody. They had the FBI there, the local head of the FBI. They had the U.S. attorney here, the DA. Yeah, they
public safety director.
It was everybody, and they opened every single person up for interviews afterwards. You interview them one on one, and they were all disturbed. Several people, the sheriff and Sean Costello, the U.S. attorney, district attorney, they both said, I shop at that Publix.
Sure.
We every week. And Birch said something along the lines of, it didn't fall on the same time this time. It would have been ended differently. Like he was like, I wish I was there.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Sure.
And it is really shocking. Like you said, people are at the park. I would have been at the park a year ago. I was playing Ultimate Frisbee Thursday night, so it would have fallen right at the same time. I would have been out there. And the mayor let it mention Monday during that meeting that 17 shots.
Yeah, at the park.
Yeah,
at Sage.
Yeah, at Sage. And
that's crazy. It's amazing if more people weren't killed.
Yeah, the 28-year-old former Viger basketball player. What was her name? Craig. Freneka Craig.
Yeah.
She was killed during that incident, and then there was someone shot in the thigh. But he's expected to make a full recovery. There was the woman that was shot at Publix. That's near my house. Like I walked to that Publix.
Wasn't that like at 10 a.m. or something like that?
Yeah, that's
1 p.m.
1 p.m.
Yeah,
midday.
Midday. Like seriously, like how many people go there right after church?
I shopped there until I moved. I shopped there. I was there almost every day for some reason or another.
Yeah, and that was a 74-year-old woman who there's no details on how or what she got, where she got shot, but she basically just refused to give the man her purse or something along those lines, and he shot her.
No regard for small children, no regard for elderly women. It's just crazy.
So, I mean, what are they saying? I mean, when they're out there talking, do they have a plan to make this different? I mean, that's the hard part. That's how do you change the thought process of people who are doing these types of things? I mean, that's part that to me seems. I mean, I hate to say it, but it seems hopeless, and I mean, it does seem hopeless. It's like if you can't get people to stop thinking that this is okay, that the thought process is, it's okay for me to pull up here and try to kill that guy in front of hundreds of people,
including small
and you know, if I miss or whatever, I don't care. You know, I mean, I don't. That is so far out of the realm of what would be a normal thought process. To me, it just seems like I don't know how you could get somebody back.
I wrote my column on this week, and you know, one thing that I did find disappointing with the city is they had surveillance cameras that did not work. Right. You know, how many millions of dollars have we spent on shots fodder, but yet the cameras at the park don't work? I mean, they probably could have at least gotten a car or a description or anything. I mean, you know, we got to be able to at least control the things we can control. You're never going to be able to stop an idiot with a gun.
And that's the truth. I mean, you can't have this kind of circumstance where these things aren't working and it's kind of like, oh, darn, you know, that didn't work and stuff, especially considering the fact that there have already been 2 shootings in parks within weeks of this, that somebody didn't say, man, we ought to go check these cameras, you know, and make sure they're okay. I mean,
where those cameras were also not working.
Also not working.
Yeah. And they're in the process of changing all of them, I think, and they haven't gotten to those, unfortunately.
I got it, but you know, it is. I mean,
it doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good, and it should. You know, I mean, it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback on all those things, but I don't know what the answer is to it. I mean, you know, are you going to say, okay, well, what we're going to do is double the number of police officers we have? Well, nobody wants to pay for that. There aren't police officers available. There's not enough to. I mean, even hiring, being fully staffed is difficult for the police department.
Yeah,
and I mean, unless you've got cops constantly patrolling around, that's not likely.
You can also see the future. I mean, it's just
well, and then again, you know, if people have this bizarre mentality, is that going to even stop them from doing some of this stuff? I don't know.
Foolishness.
You know, I don't know. I think you know, Sergeant John Young and the MPD, and he's been really outspoken about a lot of this stuff. And he has a group together, and their big thing is just trying to get younger people to stop thinking about this type of activity, that, you know, when you're mad at somebody or you've got a beef or whatever, that you just go out and shoot them.
Yeah.
Now this may also be gang related activity, but still, you know, trying to get younger people not to go down that road, but that's going to take years to find out if that's even having an effect. You know, that's not something that's going to change this tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because these are people who've grown up in this environment.
And I mean, if you think you're in a situation where you're the only one who doesn't have a gun for protection, I mean,
it's the only way I've been able to think about is like these kids are in wartime mentality. Like anywhere they're going, they think that they can be shot, or then they're gonna have to shoot someone else.
And I think they also just don't feel like there's any real future for them. So going to jail does not seem like it's that big a deal. I think, and they know a lot of people who've been to jail, and then on top of that, it takes so long for this whole thing to be adjudicated.
Right.
I mean, you know, you're talking about most of the time it's 3 years before people are, you know, they're going to that they actually go to trial. And so I mean, crazy. that's a more or less a lifetime in a lot of ways. When you're 17, 18, 19 years old, it seems like a long time. And it's you know, I don't think I think that's a big part of the problem is, you know, it does take so long to get people through the system to be put in jail that they're also often out there committing other crimes in the meantime. And it just doesn't have the same effect, I think, as yanking them up off the street and getting them put in jail.
Yeah. And the reason why the security cameras are so important is because when this stuff happens, people do not talk.
Yep.
No one comes forward. And if you've got to have surveillance available, because there's no way you're going to get it.
No,
I think they were still asking for information on the Sage Park.
That's when Sergeant Young was on, he had a Facebook post today. It was just said something like there were 200 people out there and none of y'all had
None of them.
any idea who did this. It's like,
And
I mean, it's, it's just nobody will say anything.
It's so, what's the word? They've made the idea of snitching like such a bad, evil thing.
Yeah.
That it's, they'd rather not do it than let someone get away with something. And
it is. And I think there's just a whole culture of people who don't care about any of this stuff and just think it's part of life and it is the way it is and just get with it. It's Mobile's not the only city where this has happened. It happens. Any city of any size has this issue going on right now.
I was actually talking with Rob Lasky at the event, and he said, "The crib, though you don't believe it right now, and violent crime is going down. It's trending down. The numbers are down." And he said, "Our issue is people don't feel safe, and that's not okay with us. If you don't feel safe, even though crime's going down, that's a problem, and we want to address it."
Well, I mean, if you read about somebody getting shot on a neighborhood where you don't even really know where it is, or you're not real certain where it is, or even if you are certain where it is, it's not near your house and it's not a place you go, you don't really feel that threatened by it. When it's in a park you go to, or your kid plays baseball at, or or you play softball at, or you go watch basketball, it becomes, or a grocery store you go to, it all of a sudden it becomes way more personal. And those are the things that it really, that's where we are right now, because these have been high profile and they have been in really public places. And that's it's going to be a very difficult thing for anybody to really control, I think. But it also, I think you're going to end up with the whole mayoral race being about this. And that works in one person's particular favor. Well, it would maybe work in a couple people's particular favor. Two at least, right? But I think it, I also think that there's a lot more about the mayor's race that we need to discuss than just crime, even though I know that may sound like it may sound like I'm saying, crime's not important. It is, but I don't think there's going to be a tremendous amount of difference in what people do to fight this. One versus the other, that I do various other things that we're going to do, and like how are we going to move forward and look at other opportunities as a city. So that part of I hate to see the mayoral race completely become co-opted by crime, because there's going to be crime no matter who the next mayor is. I guarantee it. And then, I mean, when that happens, you also have a hyper fixation on it. Yes. And then every event is a huge event. And then you just, the whole, and then no one feels safe. It's this like spiral, It is. But it's, I mean, I think it's going to be dominated, much of what goes on in this next several months in the mayor's race is going to be dominated by these events. And they are important. It is important, but I just don't know how. I don't know how you fix it. I really don't. And I don't think anybody really has an answer to it. Yeah. I mean, short of just this endless pile of money and endless number of police officers to stand on every corner. That seems unlikely. Yeah. Well, MPD apparently is very close to maxing out the roster. First time in a long time. Yeah, a long time. They've even been close. That was encouraging to hear.
Undercover officers, maybe, like who are actually in these
actually playing basketball and out there doing
and on social media, so they're seeing all the threats and stuff like that. But I mean, that's so hard to accomplish as well. There's no easy answer. If there was an easy answer or even a standard answer, somebody probably would have solved this to a degree at this point. But it is what's going on all over the place, and it's just a huge issue. And it's costing a generation of people. I mean, it really is. There's a lot of young people getting killed, and it makes it, to me, it seems like a lot less likely for people to want to go and do things like go play basketball at Sage Park, or being out in public. The irony of it was that just, I think, 24 hours before this occurred, Fred Richardson, former city councilman, had just posted something online saying how great Sage Park was. I mean, this was his baby. This was his, he drove the bus on this thing, and it was, how great it was, and how there's never any trouble out there. There's no fights, et cetera, and it's just a great, beautiful thing for the community.
And, as he, basically pushes send, something bad happens and kind of underlines all the real problems we have. Well, hopefully they will find some way to do at least to make it a little bit better. And I hope people will, somewhere, somehow it gets through to young people that this is not a great way to live. But we're going to call it quits on that somber note, and we'll be back next Thursday with the next episode of Lagnia-POD. Thanks for listening, folks.
Bye.
The Lagnia-POD is a Something Extra publishing production. Executive producers are Rob Holbert and Ashley Trice. Music is by Sunpulse Sounds and Electro Animals. Only subscribers like you have access to this podcast. Tell your friends they can sign up at my.lagnia-redbill.com. For advertising opportunities, please call 251-450-4466.